So, happy to be here and thank you very much. I think there is at least one familiar face which I did see already yesterday in an event. I'm not so quite sure, but yes, we met yesterday, we did. So tonight it's a bit similar, so I'm trying to make it slightly different to not bother you. So just don't get me wrong. So first of all, giving a quick introduction of who I am. That guy here in the suit standing in front of you is me, I'm Rainer. I used to be in big corporates for roughly 27 years. I did belong to Allianz in the latest as Chief Sustainability and Chief Human Rights Officer. Prior to that, I did work for Siemens more than 10 years in corporate IT and in different type of big surroundings prior to that. So I started my career in 1997 at IBM, and yes, I am that old. Good genes, so therefore happy to that. But yes, my background is in IT, so informatics is where I come from. And roughly about 5 years ago, I decided to put additional topics on top, which is then my real passion, which is for sustainability as a whole. What you probably have already spotted is that pin which is here on my suit, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you have wondering what that colorful pin is all about, 17 goals defined by the United Nations. This is something which somehow slightly got introduced me to the topic of sustainability as a generic thing. So we're not talking only on energy consumption or carbon emissions, but the whole spectrum overall. So what I am gonna introduce you is beside myself in the current role, and I did found my own company, Heartprint, about a year ago, after just leaving the big corporates, with the main perspective to support those who are interested in maybe changing something transformative, systemic thinking, trying to put themselves into future readiness from a company perspective, from a corporate perspective, from small startup, scale up, big size enterprise, but don't know where to start and how to do things. So this is what I do for a living. This is what I do since then. Beside that, as a father of 3, I do have still spare time left, thanks to my wife. That means that I do have a pro bono role, which is Chief Sustainability Officer of sustainablit.org. If you're interested in learning more about that, we do have even a DACH chapter here in Munich, which is supported from CompuSafe as well. Sustainable IT is a non-commercial, non-financial, so classical NGO, about 3 years ago founded in the US, which introduces sustainability and responsible AI as a standard, as a framework, and shares that openly. So this is a bit of a sharing economy, open source platform, what we do here. So what are we going to talk about? Generative AI, is that a game changer or is it a disaster in the making? Well, already coming up in the first hand, it's both, and it can be both. And the most important aspect is to know about it. So if I'm going to show you for the next 30 minutes, 35 minutes, a lot of examples of what it is all about and what we have to pay, what the prices we pay, and what we can get out of AI, this is never meant to point fingers towards someone or something, meaning companies or anyone in responsibilities, but to give you awareness. And awareness is how it all starts. It's about transparency. It's about knowing how to act things and how to use things. Even if it may sound, at least somehow in parts of the presentation, that I'm against AI, I am not. I'm a huge fan of it, and I am quite well, most likely on the same page than what you are, thinking that we need AI in certain rounds, in certain cases, to proceed further as humanity. But on the other hand, we need to be quite aware of what the prices we pay all about. So this is what I'm going to talk. But I'd like to first start with one of the persons you probably know, Antonio Guterres, which is a quote from him quite recently announced that we are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. And I couldn't say it better than that, to be honest. So what to expect from a guy like me? If you look at me at LinkedIn, you'll find me as climate activist in a suit. And probably you haven't expected that there is someone talking now very straightforward on sustainability and climate and what is going to change, standing here like that. And that comes on purpose. The narrative of sustainability, from my point of view, went way too much to an angle which it never should have been. It's first of all premium. So today's sustainability means if you would like to have a sustainable life, mostly you have to pay more. And you have to be much more aware of where to buy the products and how they have been produced and how they have been made. All of that leads to, well, it's mostly about 5% of humanity who are able to achieve that, at least in the industrialized Western world. How about the developing countries? Completely different thing. And we're not looking at things from a global perspective. And secondly, I mean, as I've said, I did belong to big corporates. So in the last 2 years working at Allianz, I did directly report to the CEO. And believe me, sitting in a board meeting explaining a very complex topic like sustainability to a board member is something which requires a different perspective. If I'm trying to come up with, well, let's save the world for the next generation, they don't give a shit. Sorry for my French. We have to do that in an economically and in a beneficial way for their perspective, for their situation, being in their own position. That's exactly why I'm trying to break a bit of barriers and why I'm still trying to be activist, but in a suit, with in mind that we are on a highway to climate hell, but still accelerating. And AI is playing a crucial role in that. But let me start maybe quickly with a bit of a quick question. Who likes chocolate? Well, that was expected. Most of you, nearly all of you. Next question, who likes that one? Mosquitoes. No hand. Well, at least one hand, at least one person. And Daniel, I would like to know why you somehow partially love mosquitoes. Ecosystem. Very good. And you give already the bridge to the next picture, because the mosquitoes, there is exactly two types of mosquitoes who are able to pollinate that type of a flower. And probably you already recognize what that type of a flower is. That's cocoa plants. That means no mosquitoes, no pollination of cocoa flowers, no cocoa. Means no chocolate. And that is something which I would like to keep you in the back of your head. It's always worth thinking outside your box. It's always worth looking at things from a different perspective, from a different angle, because there might be benefits, there might be an outcome which you don't even think of. If I'm a camper with my family, so we're traveling a lot with campers. If you're sitting in somehow close to rivers or close to a lake, in the evening hours, believe me, I hate those mosquitoes. I don't like them at all. But thinking about the consequences if you would completely wipe them off is something you need to keep a bit in the perspective. So let's look first into AI. What is the most demanding aspect of AI at the moment, and what is the biggest hunger AI is creating? Energy. Thank you very much. The next numbers, and sorry that I didn't find that picture. For those of you who are not speaking German, I'll translate it. This is a prediction which came out of Deloitte and McKinsey quite recently, just a week ago, and this is the prediction of energy consumption through AI, particularly in data centers. And what you can see, this is starting in 2023, so just 2 years ago, and goes up to 2030, so 5 years from now on. And the most important aspect to look at is where we had been, and that's terawatt hours. So we're not talking about small numbers, but huge numbers, and where we are going to be. So we are starting at 487 terawatt hours for the whole thing. And you do see that's, let me see if I can highlight, I can. So the highlight and the green here up down, this is the regular data centers. Then the bit darker green is the cryptocurrency data centers, and the dark green is AI. And AI down here had been very little, so not that much. And it already goes up, and it goes even further up, and then it explodes. And the thing is, the majority of models, the AI, generative AI models at the moment, they're very much increasing the energy hunger without doubling or increasing the outcome. So the results are not getting better, it's even worse. At the moment, the results of generative AI are getting worse and worse over time through many different type of aspects behind it, but the energy hunger is massively increasing. And why is that? Well, AI is based on GPUs, and the development of GPUs currently focuses on outcome, and that requires energy. And that energy in their data centers, well, it has another effect. It needs to be cooled. And most of the data centers of today, and I'm not talking about what could be developed, how could we proceed further, how could we just find solutions for something, the current situation, and in the next 5 years. So coming to, prior to come to the next aspect of cooling the data centers, first, what I've heard a lot of times, I have been in Davos at the World Economic Forum in January, and most of the big corporates, most of the hyperscalers, Microsoft, Google, all of them, they pointed towards, well, AI will help us develop fusion reactors. This is something which will solve all our energy hunger. Well, I don't comment whether I believe in that or not. It's something which is on the plate since years and decades, and always with, well, in 20 years we will have that. This is something I've heard already 20 years ago, and we still don't have it. Even if AI is helping us develop, it will be definitely something which requires more than just 5 years to bring them operationally into the grid and to develop and to deliver energy in the same amount that what we have as a need. But still, there is something else. And that elephant in the room is how we have to cool down the data centers. And the cooling of data centers nowadays is with water. There is a little bit of a progression coming to direct water cooling. So servers in the newest generation are directly water cooled, but majority at the moment, 95% is cooled with chillers on the roof of those data centers. So that means literally we need to have fresh water to just then, and not just some kind of fresh water, but sweet fresh water. So not unsalted water, not any kind of gray water. It needs to be fresh water. So the same thing that one comes out of the tap if we open it up. And that fresh water consumption is dramatically increasing as well. So at the moment, this is half a liter of water. This is the same type of bottles than what we've had outside here for drinking. Development, and again, the hunger is increasing. 2023, ChatGPT, for roughly 10 to 50 answers, consumed half a liter of water. And nowadays, with GPT-4, since about a year, it's for a single prompt. This is an average value. It very much depends on what you prompt, how much you prompt, how deep you prompt. Picture generation requires much more, but simple searches, and an average value is half a liter of water per single prompt. If you now think back, as OpenAI introduced the latest model of picture creation, and what the outcome was, a lot of people, including myself, did create some nice play figures, which was packed in plastic wrappings and created that with some kind of playground things. Within 24 hours, 10 million people did that. 10 million people did create such kind of pictures. So if you now know half a liter per prompt, you know we're talking. That means we have a water consumption which is going crazy. And now, where are we going to lead? Anyone recognizes that picture? New Zealand. That's I did pick that on purpose because New Zealand, if you talk currently to the big tech gurus, if you talk to anyone in the richest of the world, most of them, they already bought land or did create bunkers in New Zealand as an escape plan. So whenever there is something happening in the world, this is where they go to. The amount of water which is consumed in New Zealand per year will be reached by 2027 from AI worldwide. So the same amount that what New Zealand is requiring per year, a consumption per year of New Zealand is equivalent then to the consumption of AI in a year worldwide. So that means we do have something to talk about. We have something to think about. And now the big question to me all the time is there a solution in hand? Well, there could be circularities, there could be closed loops, and there could be direct water cooling, there could be other solutions which we might have. The thing is, I'm doubting that anyone who is working in that surroundings in big tech has an interest in finding up solutions because it's way too cheap to consume water. And now the biggest question to me is, who is winning? If there is then a comparison, well, is it agriculture we have to supply water, or is it tech, is it AI? I don't know what the answer will be. So, how to proceed? The aspect is we have a huge topic on water consumption for AI, we have a huge topic on energy hunger, and data centers are being built. The data centers nowadays are mostly built in areas where there is still grid in the availability aspects. And we don't have that in the standard type of surroundings. So most of the data centers of today are in the cooler climate conditions, so meaning in Iceland or in Ireland or in Canada. But the problem is there is not enough grid. So they are putting the data centers where they do have energy in the grid. And this is Malaysia, this is India, this is areas in where there is already a lack of water. So if you combine those aspects, if you think about the current situation of where we are putting up AI, then mostly in surroundings where we already have issues to deal with. And this is something which the tech companies are not treating in the right way. And again, as I said at the beginning, I'm not finger pointing. I'm not trying to put anyone in the devil's side, not at all. It's on us because we are consuming it and we're the ones demanding it. So what we have to think of is always how to treat things and how to treat them right. But there's another aspect. The aspect is we have hardware, and that hardware is being used, and in particular in data centers for AI, only very shortly. Just anyone with a clue, just throw in numbers in months. How long do you think, or in years, or whatever you think, how long is a regular type of a server with GPUs which is being used for generative AI? How long are they used? Anyone with a clue, with an idea? Daniel?
2 years.
2 years? 18 months? 1 year. It's between 1.5 and a year. So 1 year, 1.5 years developing of GPU sets and new GPU sets, but this is exactly where we are. And the majority is either being shredded. So Google, for example, they are dismantling the servers out of the rack and putting them into a huge, big shredder, and there is only flakes coming at the end with everything in it. They don't dismantle anything, so there is nothing pulled out, which could be maybe reused like a power supply or anything else. Not at all. Just putting them into the shredder because it's way easier and faster and cheaper. And the other half, and that's a lot, is ending up like this. This is generated, so this is a picture which is obviously nothing which is real, but this is what it mostly looks like. It's mostly in the developing world, sub-Saharan Africa, where most of that hardware is ending up. And then there is children, mostly very poor ones, open fires, and they're trying to melt the plastics around the copper cables to get some money created out of that. So we have an influence not only into environmental aspects, but as well into social and into human aspects. And all of that comes through us. We are the ones demanding it. We are the ones making use of that. So I guess you need to digest that. But this already gives a bit of a flavor of what we have to think about. Let me just point it and turn it into something positive. Currently, I think there is a lot of development which we never would have expected through AI and with AI. And we do have a lot of positive opportunities. So on the left-hand side, this is a bit of visual, and again, created from AI. So you can quite easily see that I'm using it as well myself. That's agriculture. Agriculture is one of the most pushing sectors and industry in the moment in regard of AI and usage of AI. So there is a lot of very good development, for example, for food creation, so crop roboters, which is small type of robots which are independently going over fields and just pulling any kind of crops. So that is replacing, for example, chemicals, which is normally being used. So this is one aspect which is very positive. Then the same aspect is valid for food creation. So a lot of food which is currently maybe overcreated in some areas of the world and undercreated in some others is better distributed. So we are avoiding food waste through AI. And this is a very positive aspect as well, because food and the agriculture sector is taking a lot of influence into carbon emissions in the world in general. And the same is for water consumption. So water, which is for agriculture quite crucial, without nothing grows. They can very specifically water exactly and only those plants which are really requiring it through AI. So satellite pictures, that's one of the aspects. Another one in the agricultural area is organic cotton, for example. I just recently met in Berlin a guy who is trying to control the organic cotton production in the world. Because, and again, this is numbers which did even surprise myself. If you purchase nowadays, if you're already in that green bubble, something which is based on organic cotton, 80% is fake. So 80% of the organic cotton which is being sold as organic is not real organic. It's just somehow a certain percentage of the field where there is maybe some sample sets being taken. This is organic, 90% of the rest of the field is not. And he's controlling that through AI. So there's sensoric, there is drones, and there's a lot of satellite pictures and stuff, and he's able to control it and track it down. So supply chain transparency through AI. And this is all things which I think, are very much beneficial in making use of. In addition, there is a lot of aspects in regard of healthcare. I mean, if you see diagnostics nowadays through AI, there is a lot of things which I don't even want to waste or just give away. No, it's perfect for us, for human beings. It speeds up a lot of things. I just recently spoke to someone from the LMU clinicum here, and he said, well, what took us days prior to AI is now able within minutes or maybe probably some hours to diagnostics. If there is, with a newborn baby, for example, some heart misbuildings, if they have to treat them, this is something they can diagnose quite fast, and this saves lives. And this is something which definitely we need to have and which is beneficial for us as human beings. The right-hand side, coming to the IT part, this is focusing on energy. As I've said, we do have a huge demand in energy, and not only for data centers. If you take the current development, and the only way out of fossils is through electrification. This is valid for individual transport, so electrical cars. This is valid for heatings, and this is valid for buildings. So wherever there is consumption of fossils today, we need to electrify to get out of carbon emissions. And this is therefore a huge demand which we have to face and which we have to treat. So the only way to get in that direction is energy efficiency. The efficiency comes with an intelligent use of energy. If you just do maybe tonight, if we're here outside, then later and talking a bit and getting in conversations, and wait until sunset, if you just look around of how many of that buildings, of that office buildings are still lightened up at 2 a.m. in the morning. If you go in any major city in the world, you'll have the same picture, the same situation without a need. I mean, we have a public holiday of tomorrow, and the lights are burning all the day. I did work, as I've said, in Allianz in Unterföhring, which is a campus for 12,000 people. One of the first things which I implemented there was an automated control of buildings and building areas and building sectors. And I mean, this is, I think, if you're working in big corporates since the pandemic, we have a utilization of maybe 30, 40%, not more than that in the majority of companies. Well, there might be others which are requiring you to get back to the office, but the majority is not. That means a lot of parts of the buildings are underutilized or not even used. There is one person here, another person there, a third person over there. We've controlled that. We've just regulated that through closing doors and not opening them up. We've completely shut off certain parts of the buildings, including monitors in standby, including meeting room equipment in standby, all of that. It did save us roughly 10% of the overall consumption of the whole campus. The setup of that whole thing took us 2 weeks. So that was just a decision to be taken. That was just some kind of toolings which we've set up, and this is energy management toolings which had been already in place. And this is something which saves us money. So this is where the climate activist in the suit comes out. And believe me, if I'm just displaying that, if I come up with a calculation, it takes me 3 minutes, and the ROE is being calculated quite recently within a year, nobody will ever decline. Is the outcome a reduction in carbon emissions? Yes, it is. If I would come up with, yeah, we need to save some CO2 for the rest of the world, they would have declined. So that's exactly how to turn somehow the perspective into things. And this is where AI can help us, because the huge amount of data, which is in buildings, which is in factories, which is in data centers, is something you are never able to control manually on the regular old-fashioned way, Excel sheets and PowerPoint stuff in that remark. So this is something where we can make a huge benefit and a huge difference. And this is where AI can help. The same is valid. I used to have a part of my team responsible for carbon emission reporting, so CSRD, ESRS, the typical standard of non-financial reporting, which is required in big corporates. In Allianz, there was a total, I mean, Allianz has 145,000 people worldwide. There was 120 people twice per year doing nothing else but 6 weeks in a row collecting data, manually collecting them from grid meters, from water meters, from wherever, out of Excel sheets, out of invoices, put them into Excel, put them up to SharePoint, and then copy them in a 4i principle into a reporting system. And that was sustainability managers, people who really wanted to change something. Is reporting in that remark changing anything in the world? Is it making anything better? Not at all. Is it maybe something that people don't want to do? If they can just put themselves into a focus area to really improve things, yes, for sure they will. But how can I help them? With exactly this. There is tools, there is solutions which are already there on the market. Is it worth looking into that? Yes, for sure. Is it worth consuming energy and consuming water for that? Yes, for sure. But we have to be very much focused and trying to find ways. But well, talking about maybe some other aspects. One of the things which I've seen for a very long time in my IT career was, let's put everything into cloud, let's put everything into hyperscalers, this is much more efficient. And yes, it is. It's sometimes not even cost efficient, but at least from an energy perspective, it is. So things changed. Things changed in January this year due to a person, and sorry my French, which is a complete idiot in a wrong position, which is the most powerful in the world. And since then, we have a discussion on digital sovereignty, because we have a dependency. We have a dependency on one hand side on governments in the US, because if that guy, for whatever reason, would like to have any kind of views into our data, he will, out of a sudden. We have a dependency on China in regard of chips. All the chips which are nowadays being produced for any kind of AI comes out of mostly NVIDIA or from AMD, all Chinese. And we have the tech giants. We have companies like Meta, we have companies like Google, Microsoft, and Gemini. And again, don't get that as finger pointing. The only thing I say is we have to be quite aware that we have that dependency. Does that mean we have to change the whole way how we treat things? No, still not. I'm still, if I'm consulting companies, if I'm consulting smaller companies, trying to help them to get digitalized, well, for sure, I point them towards Office 365. I point them towards OneDrive or towards Google. Yes, for sure, because it helps them to get more cybersecure, to get more resilient. But you need to be aware that we have that dependency. And transparency is the key to then find your own ways. I mean, what currently happens is a bit of panic mode. Everybody's running around like, hey, should we just now go to OpenOffice? Should we put everything into Nextcloud? Well, if you have money over, then you can think about that. This is something which comes with a price. But the thing is, awareness is all, and we need to find our ways to display things in the right angle. And what I would like to just add to that in a political way is, we have a global thing, we have a global problem, we are running against global issues, and we need to treat them global. I'm not a huge fan of now coming up with, well, Europe needs to get stronger and position themselves against the US, against anybody else. No, it's the wrong way. One of the goals of the SDGs is collaboration and partnership for the goals. And that's exactly what I'm seeing as well. We have a global thing, we have a global issue, we need to act global as human beings with the same goal. Maybe something as we do have, well, about, I would guess, a third of the room filled with female persons displaying themselves as female. Let me come up with a very nice example. This is Patricia, former colleague of mine from Allianz. I'm quite allowed to use that picture of her. She did make one thing. Patricia did use last year ChatGPT 4 and asked ChatGPT, this is her LinkedIn profile picture. She said, could you please take my LinkedIn profile picture and display me as a CEO? Anyone with a clue what happened? This. So the only thing which is still kept is the red suit. Everything else changed. The hair color changed. The appearance changed. Well, maybe the mouth section did stay as well, but she turned from a obviously female person into a male. Now the big question is that something which was wrong? Is that an error in the algorithm of ChatGPT? No, it's not. It is exactly the expected behavior because the majority of CEOs in corporates is male. People like me. End of 40, mostly wearing blue suits or black suits and white shirts and middle-aged and European background and academic background, same thing. This is the standard of CEOs. If I drop the same type of a prompt into ChatGPT and ask the ChatGPT creating a picture of a meeting room where I'm standing in front of people and I'm talking to those people, believe me or not, there won't be a single person in a wheelchair, there won't be a single person with a visible disability, there won't be a majority of people with another skin color than white. And this is the exact behavior of what we expect from GPT because it's just replacing the current average of what humanity looks like. But is that the reflection of humanity as a whole? No, it's not. And now the biggest question which always drives me is, at the moment we're talking about super intelligences, and there is most of the big corporates, big tech companies talking about, well, we're getting into a self-development of AI. And AI will start training itself without human interaction. The question now is, the standard where we are at the moment and what we are seeing at the moment is not reflecting humanity as a whole. So would I like to have this type of a system is training itself and developing itself even further than what it is today? I don't know. So how is the solution looking like? The aspect of what I'm trying to translate that whole aspect into is the so-called twin transformation. That butterfly has been developed from the University of Bayreuth. So that's the picture which they've created. And it says nothing different than if you would like to take a picture, I would just propose to wait for another 3 minutes, then you had the full picture, and you'll get the slides anyhow. So if you would like to have them, and this is something I'm a huge fan of, sharing is caring, and if you would like to have any of those pictures, any of those slide decks, if you need that for yourself, please take it, make it yours. We'll distribute that right afterwards, and you can just take whatever you need for yourself in addition to what you've heard from me. So twin transformation means literally shaping digital transformation sustainably. So whatever we do in the digital world should be sustainable, meaning with awareness, with a huge focus on energy consumption, with an idea of what is the price we pay. And on the other side, the transformation towards a more sustainable future-ready world needs to be digitized. So the example I gave with 120 people sitting there and manually putting data from left to right, that's not how it should be. So we need to have a way in thinking about the primary skills from both angles, digital and sustainable, and what is the support options of each other. How can we help the one thing to the other? So if you take a view from the inside out, then you have, for example, topics like cloud computing. We have the idea of big data. We can use IoT Industry 4.0. We can use as-a-service constructions. All of that is helping in the digitalized world to a more sustainable way. So take the example as a service. What's the current situation within your own company surrounding if you get a new device, a new smartphone, a new laptop? Mostly it's purchased. So the company has to take care on the purchasement. Is it sustainable? Are there already procurement criteria which are putting focus on energy consumption, on water consumption, on human rights during the production? Some of the companies do, some don't. If you take that as an as-a-service construction, then they mostly will come up on that. If you use then the device, well, you might have a configuration on energy consumption, energy saving settings, all of that in focus. Maybe you don't. And at the end of the device usage, it mostly ends up either somewhere in a locker or maybe in a storage room in the basement or elsewhere. And nobody is taking care of that. As a service is finding a solution. Am I saying that as a service is the solution for everything? No, for sure not. It comes up with another price. But for sure, it is something you can consider as one of the ideas. Just an example of how digital can be more sustainable. On the other side, there we are. I just had a view on the wrong display here. We have the look from the outside in. So how can we make the sustainable transformation more sustainable? Well, this is something, for example, with green digital twins. So if you create a product, and if you do that in a digital version first, you can already indicate, for example, repairability of a product, recyclability, what material is being used where, how can I make it a bit lighter, how can I maybe reduce the consumption of energy during the production cycle. So my former employer Siemens is doing that quite intense, for example, for trains. So most of the trains are created completely digital as a twin first, and then there has been optimizations made for weight, for construction, for stability, all of that things is made in a digital surrounding, and that helps dramatically to reduce a lot of environmental aspects. So this is one of the examples where we can help digital to transform into a more sustainable world. So the biggest question which is in my head, and which I would like to keep you in your head as well, whenever you return to your own responsibility and to your own area of work, is how can technology not only be efficient, but inclusive and future ready? So the narrative, and this is something I'd like to just place as a seed in your head as well. The narrative I'm trying to use is not sustainability anymore, or environmental care anymore, or no planet B anymore, or we need to save the planet. By the way, the planet is quite happy without us, maybe even happier. So it's more the other way around. We need to save the surroundings for being able to live on. So maybe Mars could be an escape plan, at least for a couple of persons on that planet. Not for myself, I'd like to stay here. But well, the question is, future readiness. And what is that term future readiness all about? Future readiness starts with transparency. For example, what kind of dependencies do you have? If you're working in, for example, I think we have a couple of car companies surrounding here. There is hundreds of cars parked somewhere on the streets. I'm pretty sure if you own that cars, if you're the ones operating that company, you would like to have at least a clue, maybe with 2 or 3 days in advance, if there is a huge thunderstorm and hailstorm coming across, which could destroy all of that cars. Well, if you're in an insurance company like I used to be, they would like to know it for sure. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why insurance and banking and the financial industry is pushing sustainability much harder than anybody else, because their business model is very much depending on that. If you do have to sell much more insurances to pay for all the damages which your customers come along with through damages from climate crisis, well, you have a huge interest for yourself. This is future readiness. Future readiness, if you're in a small company, maybe you would like to know if maybe the parts which you are producing a full component out of, which are being delivered from Asia through Panama Channel with huge cargo ships, if that cargo ship is not able to pass through Panama Channel because it's low water, because of a couple of weeks without rain and high temperatures, I would like to know that. I would like to know how to treat things. I would like to diversify maybe my supply chain. I would like to understand whether I do have dependencies or not, or the other way around. Believe me or not, how many companies are 100% completely surprised if Trump raises now again the tax on maybe mid-June to 50%? 50% in the company surroundings will cry out loud, oh my God, that wasn't to be expected. Well, it was, but you probably haven't reacted and you haven't found a solution because you don't even know how much you're selling to the US or not. And this is, again, future readiness. Does it have to do with sustainability, how you would look at things at the first? Most likely not. But it's future readiness. It's about resilience. It's about knowing what to expect. It's about knowing how to treat your company the right way to be able to hand it over maybe to the next generation. And this is exactly where I'm thinking that we have to turn the narrative around, that we have to turn the perspective around, and where IT, digital, and pragmatic solution thinking can be much different. Talking about future readiness. Probably you have seen the news about 2 weeks ago where Mr. Trump was in the Arab Emirates, and I think he got handed over as a gift a Boeing 787 or something. That was just, by the way, to maybe distract you from the real case why he was there. He had Elon Musk in his pocket, and Elon Musk, who owns Neuralink. Anyone knows what Neuralink is about? Most of you are nodding. So Neuralink is something which he for those who don't know, a connection between brain and AI. And what he tries to do since a lot of months now is to find a company surrounding where it's allowed to not only do that theoretically, but practically. So to connect a real brain, a human brain, a living brain to AI. And he found that country now because it's the Arabic Emirates. He's already starting to do experiments there with people, with human beings. I mean, the treatment of human rights in Arabic countries is something we don't even have to discuss, I think. But now the aspect is he's pushing things in that angle and not for the human good. He's not doing that because he would love to help us all and make AI even more accessible. No, it's something which he does in particular for just increasing his own wealth. There is a lot of opportunities for sure. If you think about people who do have a disability, not able to move arms or legs, people who are not able to speak or to see or to hear, yes, for sure, there is opportunities in Neuralink, and this is what he always proposes. But I'm 100% sure that this is not his own interest. There is a lot of other things. Maybe a bit more convenient is that solution which I found just this week. This is a Munich startup. Who is behind that? Maybe you've already seen it on LinkedIn. This is My Milo. This is a teddy bear, which is created for small children. This is AI included into it. It's displayed as it's German AI and it's whatever policies are being displayed, but it doesn't tell how and where and what is behind, so absolutely zero transparency, but it's meant to communicate with our little ones. It's not just a, like, I don't know, Tony box or anything else, just coming up with stories or music. No, it's interactive. It's communicating with your kids, with the most convenient people who are trusting and believing in everything. Now there comes the horrible story about that. There is recent studies from MIT, from a university, who found out that people who are using generative AI for more than 3 months in a row, 80% of those people trust in the results and don't even question it anymore. So whatever AI tells you, you will believe in it. And now just transfer that into your little ones. If there is someone growing up, and I have a 13-year, an 11-year, and a 4-year-old at home. If I think about my 4-year-old who is communicating actively with a teddy bear, which is sweet and nice, and he loves that, and hey, this is funny, and that teddy tells me stories. If I ask a question, I get a reply. Believe me or not, I'm scared as shit if I'm thinking about the result of what's the outcome of that things, because that kids and that generation which is growing up now, digital native, with that type of a surrounding, they will believe everything. They will not even doubt anything which comes up in AI. And that's exactly, if you combine those two things, if you combine those two aspects, this is something which we all need to be aware of. Is that something now which I try to prevent you from, which I try to push against? No, not at all. It's all about awareness. I mean, what you know and what you have as a background in IT, in AI, in all that things, if you enhance that just slightly with a bit of what I just brought up as thoughts, this is not at all a comprehensive view on sustainability. I could have spoken for the next 3 hours and not even touched a 1% aspect of sustainability. I did miss out so many things, biodiversity, inclusion. There is so many things which I could be spoken about, but this is not the case. I would like to reduce it to something which is digestible for you and which is something you could take home with you. I am not the person who knows everything and does everything perfectly well, and this is not even required. We don't need to have a handful of people doing everything perfect, but we need the majority doing a lot of things right. And that's exactly what I tried to ask you for, and why future readiness reads responsibility, not just intelligence, not just artificial intelligence, but human intelligence and responsibility. We can do a lot of things. We can do that in a very positive way, in a lot of things in a very good way, but we need to be very much responsible. And by the way, the creation of that presentation cost roughly 5 liters of water. And this is exactly because of the AI pictures which I took. So we do have roughly 10 minutes for conversation, for a Q&A, which is around here. I get asked up front, as we do have a microphone which can be used, and this is recorded, we should not start talking without the microphone in hand. So if you have any kind of a question, please let me know. First of all, let me thank you all for listening quite actively. Let me thank you for having an open mind for getting into a discussion. Technology, from my point of view, is nothing which comes up with a moral compass, it's us. And that compass is something we need to use. So the question which I've asked at the beginning is something which is quite easy to be answered, because it's up on us how we treat it. It's not something which is in the control and should be not in the control of a very little amount of people on tech giants. It should be in our hands, because we are the ones to treat the outcome. If you would like to listen to myself Unfortunately, so far in German only. There is a podcast which I do have with Max Tinius, who is a futurologist. So we're talking about future, mostly in various different angles. We do explain that mostly in a language which is even understood from children. So the latest one was on the SDGs. So if you're curious about listening what that 17 SDGs are all about, this is where you'll find it. Beside that, what I do for a living, I already told you that. So if you're interested in bringing me into your company surrounding, I do speak professionally as well. So you can hire me as a speaker, as a moderator, as a panelist, whatever you need. If you would like to bring your company towards future readiness, I'm here to help as well. Please feel free to connect on LinkedIn or just scan the QR code, which is my direct contact data, including my cell phone number. So I'm more than happy to get in touch with you. And now let's just open it up for the Q&A and for the questions. Thank you very much.